Hello and welcome to the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandon Schultz and I am joined by my good buddy Clinton Bonner. Clinton, happy new league year to you, sir, as we are now into the 2025 NFL season officially.
No need to tamper any longer, Brandon. Legally, illegally, under the covers, over the covers, whatever it might be, you motorboat and you know what, we don't need to tamper. We are officially in free agency and already, yes, we know about the O-line. Don't be throwing stuff at us. We'll talk about that too. But our Seahawks are officially shaking and baking, Brandon.
Why would they throw stuff at us? We are not the ones making the decisions along the offensive line. I think if people want to maybe throw some tomatoes at John Schneider, I feel like it's deserving at this point.
Well, we did see, Zeitler walk out the door. Well, not our door, walk into another door that wasn't ours. He decides to stay East Coast-ish, goes from Detroit down to Tennessee for under $10 million a year. So, yeah, I mean, but if people do want to throw tomatoes at us, we are the messengers after all. So that's why I say such things. But yeah, I mean, look, I don't want to go into the draft. So April 24th, 25th, I don't want to head into the draft being like, we've got to take a guard or a center at 18. I just don't want that to be the box we're put in. But right now, and I realize that's not how time works, but if it was right now, I'd be like, Brandon, we better take a guard or center at 18 because it's still a big void. Yeah.
It's still a big void, and we could talk about maybe a little bit of the controversy and then a little bit of the discussion around losing Will Fries. But let's focus on some of the guys that we heard about who are going to be a part of the team. And we did not go offensive line less, Clinton. We got one Josh Jones, a former Baltimore Raven, utility man along the offensive line, to come in and be the George Fant replacement. So, hey, if we want to start off with offensive line, let's start off there. We got somebody.
Yeah, and he's a pretty good somebody. Like, as far as 6 dude, swing tackle. Look, I like things in vacuums, and if you're going to say Jones or Stone Forsythe, hey, Stone, thank you for the years you gave us, and you tried. He's off to play with the Giants. I think Jones is a better football player and a bit more athletic. So cool. So if those two things are like, just you swap that out for that one, I'd say, Brandon, that's a bit of an upgrade, a nice positive place for us to start, for sure.
Want to thank those of you who are joining us in chat. We've got the snail saying, so if John had just said he thinks the line had enough talent and the new coaches would be would have fixed a lot of the heartburn and this could have been avoided. I think that John legit was looking for an upgrade, though. Like the idea about Will Fries coming to Seattle, like that wasn't nothing. That was a legit possibility that he could have come here. It just and maybe we can go here early if this is where people want to start, because I know that those of us in the Discord were very disappointed in the fact that Will Fries was not coming to Seattle, just because it would have been a boost to our Seahawks and the offensive line. And when you saw Laken Tomlinson out the door, you're like, okay, now we can start upgrading. And it just turned out that there's so many different reports too on the difference into why Will Fries did not come to Seattle. But if you want to be the most, generous about it, it's just because the Seahawks did not want to dedicate a 5-year contract to somebody who was not willing to wait a day to come in and be evaluated by team doctors, because until the new league year, you can't have contact with the player. You can negotiate with the agent and all that sort of thing, but it sounded to me like they wanted to bring him in before committing that much money, but maybe a 3-year deal was on the table.
That all checks out to what I've seen as well. And I've got to be fair about this, right? It's like, let's take the emotion of this being my team out of it for a second. And that's not why I watched football. I've watched football to be emotional. However, it's a business decision. This guy has like a shattered leg. He's a move type guard, and
You say shattered, he probably says broken, but
yeah. Well, it's a very broken leg. It was very, very broken. And they want to check his leg out before they give him potentially even a larger contract or the fourth or fifth year. And if he couldn't wait a day, I mean, look, he went and got his money. Some other team gave him the money without waiting the day, and he went and took it. So
right.
what can we do? So I'm not as distraught about it, but I was also never so much all the chips have got to be on Will Fries, because I think most Seahawks fans, including myself, 2 to 3 weeks ago, didn't really know who Will Fries was. Like when I started researching and be like, oh, who's here? Like,
Right.
oh, okay, that's a dude that seems like he could play. And then it gets white hot for a quick second, Brandon. But it's not exactly as if it's a Creed Humphrey where we've been panting for this guy for many, many years. He became available. That was not the case at Will Fries. So I could back away from it pretty quickly, Homer style, into the bushes.
Yes, now we can get on the Mekhi Becton train, because that is a guard who we actually know because we watched him perform and perform well in the playoffs. I just don't know if Becton is a guy that this coaching staff is going to chase after, because he's kind of on the bigger side. He would be fine in the zone blocking scheme. I just don't know if they're going to look at him as a scheme fit.
There's no kind of on the bigger side. He's 6'8", right?
Yeah.
So
he's ginormous. Okay, I said it.
He's a gigantic man, which is okay. And I know people, different analysts and different Seahawks punditry are like, well, he's not exactly the zone scheme fit. Okay, but I watched the Eagles maul some people and do zony things. And again, it's not like you're forever in wide zone and that's all you do. You do all the things, and you have a tendency to do the thing you do more. In this case, Kubiak already made it very clear. It'll be wide zone, stretching it out there, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe he's not the perfect fit from that 10-yard split that you want to see in dudes like that. Okay. Is it still a major upgrade to the nobody that just walked out the door with Laken Tomlinson, where it might be Lamea, it might be Haynes? Yes. It's likely a very, very huge upgrade. And hey, can Sundell make a big leap? Sure, maybe he can. Maybe he plays center. We don't know. But all that being said, he'd be cool with me. And I was working all day, so if I missed this part, let me know. Did Jenkins sign?
No,
is Jenkins okay?
At least not that I know of. And Carly in the chat is saying, I thought we were on the Jenkins train. And Tevin Jenkins is probably one of the next best options out there. It's just that he hasn't really finished a season over the last couple of years. And we know he was a guy that we talked about in the free agency show of saying, hey, if the Bears are moving toward young and youngish, he's 27. If they're willing to give up a draft pick to get Joe Thuney to replace their young guy who's hitting free agency, maybe be a little bit wary of the situation, because they're moving on to an older guy who may not have very many more years, passing up a younger dude, and who would probably make about the same amount of money, you would think. So it's a big concern for me, and I could see why in this case, depending on the price, I might be in on Tevin Jenkins.
Right. And you said, that he had not finished the year with the Bears, and who can blame him after the last little bit of stretch? Who would want to finish any of those years? Of course, we're a bit jealous of the Bears and what they've been able to do in the last week or so. I know you just had EJ Schneider from Bootleg Football on. That's up right now. Great episode, by the way. So the folks that didn't see that one just yet, EJ comes on as he does. Brandon, you really got him quite nicely. But the meat of that, when you guys go through the O-line prospects, the wide receiver prospects, you touch on tight end, and he's going through all the college dudes coming out. It is unbelievable content. So please do go check that out on the YouTube channel. EJ is always awesome. With that, definitely jealous of what the Bears have done. They have restocked. I hear the hesitancy that if the Bears could retool all these guys and Jenkins was not part of that plan, does it raise a couple of concerns? And I got to be honest, I think it does, at least a little bit, man.
And there have been whispers questioning his level of toughness too, if he's able to play through injuries, and so the number of games he's played each year that would kind of suggest that. So I'm
Hmm.
saying that if we go with Jenkins, like don't maybe be all bought in right away. Like you could have some reservations as far as celebrating, but it would be John Schneider overpaying for a guard. So there would be reasons to celebrate because if that happens, then hey, here we go. John's actually changing his ways, and maybe that would be a beneficial thing too. If it's not Tevin Jenkins, I keep thinking that Lucas Patrick is probably who we end up with, who is the left guard at with the Saints last
Right.
year. He would probably be an upgrade over Mekhi Becton. So
Mekhi
there's
Becton,
that,
or you think
or not Mekhi Becton
yeah, yeah.
over who we had,
Oh, Lakin.
Laken Tomlinson.
Yeah. So Lucas
I got
Patrick
Becton
is,
on the brain.
you got, why not? Right. Why not already? Patrick is, he's pretty, he's pretty okay. You know, he's okay. And I think he could be a stable piece. And I realize that's not a rousing, argument to go get the guy. But again, if we're looking for improvement, stability, a veteran presence, a guy that knows the Kubiak offense inside and out, checks all those boxes and then some. The game we reviewed when Spencer Rattler brought the Saints back and we were looking at the Kubiak tape, he was good. So him and Ruiz were doing a nice job there. So it was a pretty impressive New Orleans offensive line that got them back in that game we reviewed, which is also on our channel, by the way, which I would recommend people go see because that's a cool review of what you could start to expect with some of the Kubiak stuff as well. So I got to know him via that tape review. I don't know. I walked away being like, he's fine. And in this case, I think that equates to an upgrade over, at least a stability upgrade over the current portfolio, put it that way.
Well, I want to get to the snail's comment here in a minute. We've got 120 folks joining us live here on a Wednesday night. Really want to thank everybody for joining in. And if you have not liked, if you have not subscribed, please do so. And if you're just listening in after the fact, youtube.com/Seahawkers podcast. You subscribe, you get notifications on when we're going live. Also, posted the notification up at getintheflock.com for those of you who are supporting the show. And a quick note that we are going to be at Clearwater Casino coming up Thursday, April 24th. We're going to have a draft party there. We're going to be part of their draft party. We're going to be live streaming during the draft, and there's going to be some Seahawks there. And I'm getting whispers of maybe Seahawks that we hadn't talked about before being there at this event. So I'm kind of excited about that. No announcements yet, but it's going to be a fun time, I think.
Right. And the ones that are announced too, Earl Thomas will be there, announced. Julian Love will be there, announced. Kenny McIntosh will be there. He's announced. There's some other older, like more legend Seahawks that'll be there too. And just check it out. Scan the QR code, but the room that it's in, it's a big room. So I expect there's going to be several hundred of our closest Seahawks fans and friends with us. So, I mean, what better thing to come do is come hang out with us. I mean, heck, Brandon, we'll put them on camera for a second. If you're a flocker and you're there, you want to sit down with us and the 6 hours we'll be casting, heck, I promise to you, we'll get you on camera.
The snail says it sounds like it's not John's ways that need to change, and the rumor mill was churning on X and all over, I think, after we learned that Will Fries was going to the Vikings. And the rumor is that maybe it isn't John Schneider who is limiting some of our contracts, that maybe it is owner Jody Allen, and that there is some reason why the Seahawks haven't gone to 5-year contracts. And maybe that it has something to do with selling the team. This seems a little. I don't know if I'm fully convinced on this.
Yeah, it's two things for me. I don't know if I'm fully convinced, and I don't know if I have the capacity to care. I care because it ends up potentially hurting the Seahawks. There's a lot of rumors out there from the 49ers that they're getting, it's a bloodbath for them kind of in free agency, which is cool. And they're like, hey, they need to be more flush with cash, and it's a demand from the ownership. So that's kind of out there. So is it similar? I don't know. I mean, here's like, for me to care, it's like, look, Jody inherited, and she did her own stuff in her life as well, but she inherited this via the trust, via Paul Allen being the co-founder of Microsoft. And I just can't, like, cash and monies, it's not a problem for that family, So if that is the case, then I have a problem with it. I just have a hard time mentally getting to that point. It's like, I don't think they're cash strapped in any way, shape, or form. So I just hope it's not that, Brandon. So that's as much attention as I could pay to
Yeah.
that, because we got some bigger and
And
more
that's kind of
positive
why I
things.
went to the injury thing too, is because that one seems more plausible. Like a guy not coming in for a physical and not doing a long-term deal, and a
I
couple of people
agree.
in chat pointing out there's not a lot of teams. Like Will Fries is the only free agent to get a 5-year deal coming out of free agency. DK Metcalf, you could probably throw in that because he had 1 year and then he got a 4-year extension, so that's another long-term deal. But he doesn't stay with the Seahawks either. Yeah,
Mm,
and I don't think it has anything to do with selling the team in the near future either, because one, I think that billionaires probably don't care about the starting guard's contract being on the books, whether it's 3 years
mm.
or 5 years. Teams come up for sale so seldomly that multi-billion-dollar owners or multi-billionaires who want to buy a football team, it's like a toy to them.
Yeah.
It's like if a football player who comes into a bunch of money wants to buy a Lamborghini. They don't go, well, is the fuel efficiency on the Lamborghini good? What's the radio like in it? Is it is the bass good and the speakers?
Mm.
They aren't looking at that level of detail. They're looking at, is a team for sale? Can I pay for it because I want it? And that I'm going to pay whatever it takes, because when's my other chance going to be?
Yeah, two things there. Bezos has the cash, right? And he's the obvious first person in line given the proximity and everything else. And he's stated before that he wants to own a team. Okay, like, let's go. You got cash. Second thing I'll say, free idea. If Lamborghini were ever to make an electric car, maybe they do. I'm believe it or not,
You have not been in the market for
I'm not.
exploring Lamborghinis?
I'm not yet, not quite yet, but they could just call it the Lamborghini E. Huh? Huh?
Oh,
Huh? It's pretty
I
slick.
think you may have a marketing deal that you should get. We need to get Clinton in front of somebody at Lamborghini.
Seattle, we got a deal.
If it gets you a free car out of the deal, yeah, even if it's not a Lamborghini,
Yeah,
you should definitely do it.
I'll get a Yugo E. It'll be great.
All right, so the Seahawks on defense. We haven't talked about the one big defensive addition, Clinton. I know you want to get to the wide receiver because you love middling wide receivers, but Demarcus Lawrence from the Cowboys is joining the Seahawks. How do you feel about that?
I feel very good about it. And concisely, I love the idea of adding to strength. And this is not just like, oh, he's an edge rusher because he had the numbers back in the day. He is a sensational run stopper on the edge who, even as at his age, has pass rush upside. So yes, please. I just look at you, put him in, and it's not like he has to go be the star of that group by any means. And you shared earlier, I think it was in our Discord, it was really succinct. You said, Draymond upgrade. And I think that is exactly right. And if you look at the economics of it too, it really breaks down quite favorably. People are like, how would they give him that much money off of an injury, et cetera, et cetera. To end this point and give it to you, Brandon, I think it's a really just absolutely solid move that I think will give Mike what he's after. Mike, he said what he wants to go do with that defensive line. I think this is a key piece that helps him achieve that in year two.
And I think if anyone is skeptical about the Demarcus Lawrence deal, I could understand, especially if you're looking at the early numbers, because you see 3-year contract, you see $42 million, you see
Right.
18 guaranteed. You're thinking, well, is this Demarcus Lawrence deal an overpayment? And I've seen some articles out there that have already been written like 10 minutes after the release saying this is just way too much for a guy who only played 4 games last year, who's getting toward the end of his career. I would caution people to wait until the actual contract numbers come out, because the 18 million guaranteed, we don't know how much of that might be a second year guarantee due to
Mhm.
injury. The third year of the deal to make it 42 million could also be inflating it. If it comes out and it's a 2-year deal, then I'm predicting that once we see the actual numbers of this Demarcus Lawrence contract, fans are going to look at it and go, I think we got this guy for a steal. And I am really excited about Mike Macdonald, especially, gosh, we've seen him rejuvenate careers of some of these
Mhm.
older players. And
Clowney, yeah, heck
Demarcus
yeah.
Lawrence is just coming off of 1 year. Well, he's coming off a year with a broken foot,
Yes.
or a shattered foot,
No, this was this
as
foot was
Clinton might put it.
this foot
And
was just broken. Just it's our guy, just broken.
just broken. So yeah, Demarcus Lawrence, I think if he can get back to just even the production that he put up 2 years ago, then and the Seahawks can get 1 or 2 years out of him as he goes into the twilight years of his deal. I think this has the potential to be better than Joey Bosa going to the Bills.
For 12.5 mil, right? For that contract. I agree, and I think Snell does by his statement here. He says it's the best move they've made so far this offseason. And what we're seeing is a bit of a tale of two cities, where it's becoming a little bit hard for us to attract the offensive talent. Like that part, so like, okay, it's especially the offensive line talent. They're deciding to go elsewhere. What else can you say about it? It's just the truth right now. The defensive side, I think Mike has this gravity well happening, and I know players talk. So scheme wise, and what it will mean, I think it's a very attractive place to come play, and we have the history of being this place where defense is lauded, and won that Super Bowl and really was on the verge of being a dynasty. So it's right there, and the fan base really appreciates defense. One other thing I'd say about Lawrence too is, the pass rush upside might be more surprising than it looks. If you're just looking at his stats the last couple of years, you're like, all right, he had the couple of years like 2017, 2018, double digit sacks, like 14 and a half 1 year. Okay, that's not Demarcus Lawrence we're getting. Fine.
That's in the rearview mirror a little
It
ways
is.
back.
It is. However, and then you start to see like 5.5, 6, and then it drops down to like 5, and then I think it was like 4, then 3. You're like, all right, that's a really falling off from a sack perspective. Yet last year he got hurt in game 4 is when he hurt his foot. He recorded a sack that game. He had 3 on the season, 3 on the young season already. So he was off to a good sack total start. 3, not even 4 full games, 3 sacks. So, I'm not saying he's double digit guy, but with this scheme and he's going to get a lot of help from his friends across that line when you got Leo and Murphy, and then our other edges who are all solid. I would not be shocked if he's back between the 5.5 to 7 range. And from a defensive grade, just stuffing the run, he's still quite elite at just stopping the run. What's not to like?
The snail saying, I'll be honest, I thought he was retired until I saw we signed him. Demarcus Lawrence was among, when you would look at the top 100 lists of free agents, Demarcus was in the middle part of that list, along with the other guys like Joey Bosa, maybe not up there as high as Leo Mack, maybe some of those other guys, but still, he was on that list. And we've got the comic binge Clinton saying,
yes, my boy.
I told Clinton earlier, MVS will be a big addition, in my opinion. We are running 11 and 22 personnel, not a ton of 3 wide receiver sets. He'll be a big addition. Clinton, if the Seahawks are running a lot of sets with only 2 wide receivers, how is Marquez Valdez-Scantling going to be on the field?
He won't be, right? So, which is fine. I do want to give a quick shout out and get back to it. So I've mentioned to you just before we got on that I was on a show last night. So anybody out there that loves comic books, I was on the comic binge with Paul. You see it on screen there. I would encourage you, go Check out his stuff at the Comic Binge. Subscribe if you're a comic fan, even if you're not. Does an awesome job. But I hopped on and we talked about early 90s Marvel trading cards. So it was a walk down nostalgia lane. And Brandon, you and I talk cards often as well, which we also do in our Discord. So it was super cool. So thank you for having me on, Paul. People go check it out. With that,
Paul does bring up a legit question though. Who is wide receiver 2 now? It is probably MVS until Cooper Kupp signs.
Yes, and again, just like we said, you don't exclusively run wide zone. Obviously, you're going to have times when you're trotting 3 wide receivers out there, and there will be packages where MVS is the number 2. So I was speaking in absolutes there, Brandon. So he will be on the field a bit. Look, MVS in a nutshell. Does he drop a few too many passes and like big passes in his career that puts a little stink on him that just carries with him? He does. Does he still have legitimate top level NFL speed and get behind safeties? And he does. Like, that's what he still does really, really well. And if you could work him into zones and stuff like that, just get him a little bit of space, he becomes a yak monster because he's so freaking fast. But primarily, his job is to draw safeties and open things up underneath for JSN. So if this is a much less expensive decoy, I think this is a cool piece at $5.5 million. De'Ami Brown went for $10 million. Slayton's at $12 million. Joshua Palmer, who I haven't seen do really anything when he's had chances with Herbert, with other Chargers down and out and hurt, Keenan Allen getting hurt. It's like, oh, because I play a lot of fantasy, right? Fantasy football. It's like, oh, it's Josh Palmer's week and the other guys are injured. He never did much at all. So do you want Joshua Palmer for $12 million or MVS for $5.5 million on a year? I don't know, dude. I'm okay at that level for this contract for 1 year. I'm fine with it, Brandon. So middling wide receivers, what do you think?
I'm fine with it too. I wanted to give you a hard time because you tend to boost up guys like this maybe a little more than necessary, and it sounds like you found the right place to place MVS, because I recognized it as a need too. When we were doing our free agent show, I talked about, hey, if Hollywood Brown is out there at a certain time, then he can play this same type of role. So I also see MVS fitting that similar type of role. And I think Hollywood went for, close to $10 million for a 1-year deal. Yeah. And 5 seems way more appropriate. And you still have some money to maybe go sign some of the offensive linemen that aren't out there anymore.
I got one more name.
Okay.
And I don't think he's been signed yet again.
Well, hold on to that, because I want to recognize Gambling Goat in the $4.99 super chat.
Beautiful.
Thanks for all the content, fellas. Here's to hoping our offensive line doesn't blow this season. Are you bringing up a name that is going to help our offensive line, Clint?
Yes, because as a wide receiver that will cost $5 million who gets open quickly, and again, I don't know if he's been signed yet. Let's see. Tim Patrick, was he signed today yet? I really like me some Tim Patrick, and I think he would be such a
Okay. I thought we were talking offensive.
No, I'm saying it will just help because he gets open quickly, and that helps a bad offensive line. So does anybody know if Tim Patrick did get inked yet?
I don't think he has. He's been a guy who's had injury issues.
He has
ever since the Let's Ride Curse era.
Yeah, this is Adam's fault and your fault. 100% for sure. That is all correct. But if somebody in chat could let us know if Tim Patrick is still out there. Last year he went 1 year for like $4.5 million to Detroit. He was very good. He's just, look, if we're not going to have stars out there, and if we take Golden in the first round, cool. He could potentially be, a nice 1-2 at JSN and be that just burner star. But I want flexibility going into the draft just to get like workman wide receivers. Totally fine. Totally fine. Because I know what Kubiak can do with them. And I know it will be enough paired with 12 personnel, paired with run the football a lot. All good.
We've got Ryan911, one of our live executive producers.
Nice.
Recognizing the 49ers have signed Mac Jones as maybe their future starting quarterback if Brock Purdy doesn't take a deal.
Gross. Yeah, I guess okay for Mac Jones. The 49ers are getting decimated in free agency, really torn apart. Now this happened to the Rams a couple of years ago, and I hate to give them credit, but they bounced back way faster than I thought they would. And they're a problem. They're good again. They're quite good. But I can still revel, Brandon, in the 49ers getting like absolutely shredded and then they're about to go give Brock 45 million. Maybe they negotiate. He has to go get 50 million for Jimmy G plus. Like, okay, good luck.
Yeah, I can see why it makes sense. It's a little bit hilarious that Mac Jones is coming to San Francisco after all those years of this discussion around whether or not they actually wanted Mac Jones at number 3 and that he was somehow talked into Trey Lance, and then they trade away Lance, and for that not hurting the franchise as much as it should have. It makes me worry a little bit about the Niners still, that so many of the architects of the team these last few years, they're still there, and they managed to weather that storm, and now they might be starting from scratch, but they did pretty well starting from scratch before, and they're still going to be there. So I'm not ready to pile dirt on the Niners just yet, but I will be looking forward to it as soon as it starts to happen.
Yeah. Me as well. They will be, they're still worrisome in kind of until they're not. There is a chance that they would be easily the 4th team in the NFC West this year. And this is okay. I know it's March 12th. There's a shot. There's a legitimate, but also to say that, right? If you think like 2 years ago that statement would be even entertained, you wouldn't have thought that. So we've come pretty far from that Super Bowl loss to a year and a half later, where it's like right now you can make the argument they're the worst team in the division. So you could, suck at Rams. It's like Rams too, suck at Rams, but also suck at Niners and also suck at Cards.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Cardinals, I don't know if I can pick anybody for number 4 in the division when I see that the Cardinals are still signing LJ Collier to their roster. And that to me seems like maybe they should still be slotted in at number 4 until they can decide that how to value defensive linemen.
He can't cost much, right? I mean, I have to say, good on Collier to not wash out of the league at this point from where he was.
Hanging on by a thread with the Arizona Cardinals.
And be to his credit, being serviceable. Clearly, right? Getting a new contract, and this is when they just brought in Sweat, also the free agent from the Eagles, who had a very good year. He's a good player, had a great end, of course. Many were calling for him to be the MVP of the Super Bowl, had a great Super Bowl. But LJ, he's hung on. He got bashed because of his draft position. And really, that's our fault.
Well, it doesn't have anything to do with you and me. It was fully on John Schneider, our general manager. So
I like to just group us all together, right? It's like if it's John's decision, we could take.
I want to take credit for the good decisions, Clinton. I don't want to have anything to do with the bad ones.
Understood.
We've got Michael Knight in chat saying if we go number 18 wide receiver, Ibuka or Golden. This must be John Schneider's burner account because he's already asking about what wide receiver we should draft in round 1. I would prefer to go offensive line in round 1, but if we are going receiver, talking to EJ Snyder of Bootleg Football, and yes, that interview did release earlier this morning on our YouTube channel and on our podcast feed. And one of the guys that we talked about, and he's particularly excited about, is Matthew Golden. He has the speed to draw John Schneider's interest, and I think that he has that potential to be, when you pair him with JSN, that could be a really nice dual threat and a guy who could probably come in. The thing that I worry about is a guy being able to come in right away and contribute. And I think that a guy like Matthew Golden, we probably don't have to worry about. But also boo Texas,
Oh, sure. You could boo Texas. I get that.
the Longhorns in particular.
I get the boomer sooner in you. I
Yeah.
understand. I understand. I get where it comes from. And for those in the audience that maybe don't, that's where it is. It's Brandon's a boomer sooner. So I'm warming to the idea of the skill position at 18. Obviously, you know my take. I want Tyler Warren. Speaking of EJ Snyder, watching him absolutely nail every single point as to why I think Tyler Warren is not only the pick if he's at 18, but I think he's the pick to package things up and move up to 12 or whatever you got to go do to go get Tyler Warren. Because in my estimation, you are bringing in basically George Kittle. You're bringing in possibly the best or right around the best tight end blocker in college football. And you're bringing in a very dynamic football, good catcher, contested catches, sideline catches, works the middle of the field. They put him back in Wildcat. The dude is a baller and he would change the team dramatically. So he remains my number one. I'm warming to the concept because of the moves we made of specifically of Golden. And I know there's some really cool players. Josh DeHuman's been doing a real cool job in our Discord, laying out other wide receivers. And I forget the guy's name currently from Iowa State. If someone in the chat could throw him up there, but Golden to me looks like he's really smooth, man. You watch him and you're like, you don't think a dude like that will miss. It's like, okay, you plug him in. It's just like, what kind of ceiling are we talking about? It looks to be like this guy's 1,000 to 1,300 yard receiver. He has every element, and that's just like you could plug and play that guy. So, yeah, man.
Jaden Higgins, is that the guy you're thinking of?
I think it is. I think that's correct. Yes.
Oh yeah, because it was people. He said Higgins, and a lot of people were saying T.
Right, exactly. Higgins from Iowa State is another one that I know that EJ also thinks fondly of as well. But yeah, man, look, man, we're going to be out there at Clearwater Casino, right across from Seattle and Puget Sound. And if it's number 18 and we get a wide receiver and other things shake out okay, I'm going to be pretty pumped about what this like reformatted offense could look like. Because I don't think it's doom and gloom on the offense as much as it was like a couple days ago. How about you?
I don't know about doom and gloom. I just don't know if our offense is significantly better than in previous seasons. With Sam Darnold, it very much depends to me on what they can put around him. And I was hoping that the signing of Darnold, moving on from Geno, would be so they could build along the offensive line, particularly in the interior, and that hasn't materialized yet. So again, it's still kind of an incomplete to me, and I'm kind of in wait and see mode. But if they can continue with the defense and the Demarcus Lawrence addition is nice, it's really going to be how many points do you need to put up on the board if your defense is really crushing the other team.
One other wrinkle. One of my very good friends is a guy. He's actually named Michael Jordan, so we call him Jordan, and he's a big Giants fan. And he's like, dude, do you see who we play this year? The Giants. The schedule's brutal. Just the teams they play. Go look at Seattle's opponents. It's not murderer's row. I realize teams are going to change and things happen. It's early and all that stuff. But at the same time, last year, it's on tape. I'm sitting there going like, hey, 10 wins is going to be really difficult. Like this schedule we got to go face. We're facing just good team after good team. The strength of the schedule is going to be ridiculous. And it was hard. I don't think that'll be the case this year. So, and these are teams that I don't think some of them are like, I don't think are dynamic on offense. And that's why I bring it up, because to your point, we could be building something quite special on defense here, where if we score 21 points, we're pretty much winning the game. So, I mean, I don't know if it feels like Pete ball, to you, Brandon, but we might be getting back to some Pete ball, whether we like it or not.
It could be. And if they go heavy in the draft on the offensive line, I need to see it. I need to see those spots addressed. And I think that's why I don't know if it had so much to do with Fries, because I mean, so few of us, watched last season and probably watched zero Colts football. And so we just
Yeah,
got a little bit enamored with the name because he was the best option
right.
of the free agents. And so when he wasn't there, it was like, well, what are we going to do now? And I think that hit everybody pretty hard on Tuesday. So, yeah, I think that we still are a little bit worried there, but
For
yeah,
sure.
we'll have to see. So I mentioned Draymond Jones leaving. He goes to Tennessee for a 1-year, $10 million contract. Speaking of the Giants, Roy Robertson Harris, he went there
Mhm.
for 2 years, $9 million. Laken Tomlinson went to the Texans for 1 year, 4.25. Stone Forsythe to the Giants. We don't have contract details, at least I don't on that yet. And Clinton. We're saying that San Fran is bleeding out of former players, but now they brought in our former corner, Trey Brown.
Big play Trey. So you know what I'm going to say, and what I'm going to say is when he ends up being a really good slot corner, because I think that's his best position, I will cry a little bit. I'll take a victory lap, but I'll cry during that victory lap. Trey was not going to stay here. Last year it wasn't like it came, I don't know, maybe it did come off the rails for him, but a lot seemed not right for Trey Brown last year. And is it the coaching? I don't know. Is it that the coaching staff, he didn't mesh with them? He just felt a different type of pressure that he didn't feel with Pete, or appreciation. I don't know, but it did not at all feel like his best effort last year. Like Trey Brown was always high motor, high effort, will stick his head in there. A couple times he would get quote unquote burned. It was literally because like he was a half an inch too short, or his vertical was a little bit like there was plays just he's there,
And
but
the other guy makes a great play
exactly,
in a lot of
exactly.
those
And
cases
people are
too.
like, oh, he got burned. Like that's not getting burned. Come on.
Yeah.
That's hardly shattered, right? So I was always a big defender of Trey, and I think he's pretty good.
I was a
So
defender of him too, but now he's dead to me. And while we're turning out, he was our one Oklahoma Sooner guy on the team,
I
and
know I
now he's
liked him.
gone, and now he's a turncoat, and yeah.
He could go pound sand, man, with the rest of that, decrepit team. So I wish him personally the best, and I wish the 49. I hope they fall apart on the field, but Trey
You know
Brown,
who I wish
I think's pretty
personally
good.
the best? Carly brings this up in chat. I'm not even Russ's biggest fan, but I want better than the Browns for him. I,
How
I
about the
want that too, Carly.
how about the Giants? I was saying, as mentioning my Giants buddy earlier, we're texting. I'm like, there was always the smoke and rumors that
Right.
Ciara and Russ wanted to go to New York. I realize it's not the best time, but he doesn't have that many options. We're talking now at this point, what, Browns or Giants? I mean, sheesh. Give me the Giants. Give me New York City.
Titans, maybe? Have the Titans signed anybody yet?
Yeah, Titans. Didn't they? No, just Seidler.
Okay.
That was what was in the brain.
You were the one keeping track of Zeitler, and that's
Yeah,
where he
yeah,
went.
yeah. I lost him. We lost him. No, but for Russ's sake, I hope it's the Giants. I would love that for him. I think it'll be a better place. Look, just the possibility of Russ throwing moonballs to Malik Neighbors, I could get behind that. I could cheer for that.
You are over on the East Coast, and that would give you a little something to cheer for, I suppose, for one of your East Coast teams. Ryan 911 in chat saying Russ could help redeem the Browns, though. And I would say to Ryan, Mike Holmgren could not even help redeem the Browns. And now he's not in the Hall of Fame. It's probably because his time in Cleveland. And so just another reason to say screw Cleveland.
Bill Belichick could not redeem the Browns, right? So there's a lot of that going around for that team for far too long. What a
So yes,
gross
Russ,
franchise.
stay away. You will probably not make the Hall of Fame if you end your career in Cleveland.
Yeah,
Almost assuredly.
Go to the Giants and shock the world, make the playoffs.
There you go.
That's it, and then you're in.
All right. So, what are we looking forward to, Clinton, these next couple of days for our Seahawks? Are there any moves that you could see happening here by the end of the week?
Yeah, I mean, position wise, I don't think it'd be the worst thing if we do grab another tight end. Obviously I'm enamored with some of the tight ends in the draft, but I still think getting another tight end would be smart now.
Mhm.
So that's a move that I would certainly welcome. Obviously, we're all still searching for a guard and or center, but really primarily a guard. So that one, I think everybody knows. And then for me, I said it earlier, but another value wide receiver, I'd be super happy with. And I hear lots of people just throw one more out there, Brandon, but then you could say which one maybe is your favorite. But I hear lots of people also saying kind of like a value safety might be cool too. I don't I feel very similarly that I don't want to overspend at that position. But a value wide receiver would really make me happy, and a different type of wide receiver. Like I like that wide receivers are a little bit like relief pitching in baseball. You got to get the guy, the lefty specialist, you got to get et cetera, et cetera. Cool. You got to get the ground ball guy. MVS fills a role. Go get a different type of guy that's a little more slotty. Oh, dude, one name we didn't mention yet, Brandon. We did not mention the new free agent, the blondie from Eastern Washington, Cooper Kupp.
I actually did mention Cooper Kupp. We just kind of blew right past it.
Oh, man.
But when you're talking, and I know that this might hurt some of the folks in chat who don't want to push Jake Bobo down the depth chart anymore, even though some people have him at number 1, JSN at 2. But then if that's your depth chart, how about you put Cooper Kupp at number 3 and MVS at number 4? Then we have a wide receiver core that maybe we don't have to be upset then. And maybe John Schneider doesn't have to pick a wide receiver in round 1 of the draft, especially if there's a guard available.
Well, this is a cool point, right? It's the flexibility of not feeling like you have to then go use one of your, let's say your 18 or your 50 or the 52 on a wide receiver. I like not having to or feeling like we don't have to. And I think Cooper Kupp does that trick. Like, I think that solidifies exactly how you just said it. Nope, we don't have to do that. So that'd be kind of cool. That's intriguing to me. I want youth on this team and I want value wide receivers. I think he's the exact, like in the matrix of exceptions, I think he's the exact exception I would go for is like, okay, he'll cost a little bit more. He's not young. He's 32. And I still think he could play football.
And also, when it comes to safety, are you thinking because all of the talk around Imanwari that's got you excited about the potential for safety, even though we would be just fine with Julian Love and Kobe Bryant starting a safety week 1?
Yeah. So the Imanwari buzz, I don't specifically get, and I know there's other large Seahawks podcasters that are like in love with him, which is totally fine. I get the athleticism. I understand that. From a fit perspective, it's just like, okay, I can't imagine we'd have to pick him at 18 if he's even there with the combine he had, right? Okay, so we got to pick him at 18. I don't want to draft a safety at 18, not for our Seahawks. And you laid that opinion out with EJ as well. But the other piece is, and you said this with EJ, like you go watch his film and he's not some thumper. They're all like, he could be the next, Bam Bam Cam. It's like,
because he has the size.
Sure, he's got the size, but fine. There's lots of big dudes in the NFL. And I realize 6'3" and the way he runs 4.38, jumps out the building. I get all that. And he's strong. I think EJ said 22 reps in the bench press with long arms, very difficult. I'm not questioning the guy's athletic prowess. Fit wise, I don't see a need, man. Love is in a very comfortable contract for a couple more years. Kobe is we found something there. I don't know. It's more fit versus anything for me on that one, Brandon. And I think you feel similarly, but I don't know if there's more you'd want to add there.
Yeah, I think that's similar, along the lines of my thinking too, as far as safety goes. It's not a huge need, and it would have to be a blue chip type player, and maybe even Mari ends up becoming that. But I didn't see enough in the little bit that I watched him to see the type of player that think that would go that early. It seems like he's getting a lot of buzz that early, more from combine performances than performance on the field necessarily. But if he ends up being there round 2 and that need's still there, maybe round 3. I don't know if he ends up going to round 3 after a performance like that, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Right. And I see a good question from Daniel Smith saying, got to have a third safety, right? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, you had it. I mean, yes. And that's why I'd be excited if we went and just got just like I want Tim Patrick as an example of a consummate professional wide receiver. There are consummate professional safeties that you could pay now and then not feel the pressure that you got to spend, let's say, an 18th pick to fill out your wide receiver room. And I realize he might be super talented. And I know here's the thing. I know people are so best player available, in my opinion, a little nuts, a little overweight on best player available. And I know that's the talk of the era, but I just don't care. If we don't get a high caliber guard or center and Gray Zabel is sitting there at 18, which he probably will be, because people are like, oh, maybe he should go in the 20s. He should go 25th. Maybe he would sneak to 33 just out of the first round.
I've seen him fall into the second round too.
Sure.
Toward our second pick. So
sure. But
yeah.
And who cares? Like, if you need a center or a guard and you can pick that guy, and every projection goes, he's a day one NFL starter with Pro Bowl caliber skill set.
Yeah.
I don't care if that's the first pick or the 32nd pick. If you need that, like, that's what we need. It fills a huge void. And he looks to be a really darn good prospect. Everything has risk in life. Everything's a risk in the NFL. It's a draft. You don't know how it's going to play out. But I'm not going to feel shortchanged if we take Gray Zabel at 18. I'm going to be like,
right.
Versus a safety when we have a good safety room. Like, that's the disparity I can't get my brain around, dude, ever.
And it does go best player available. But John Schneider's shown, hey, maybe he is willing to overpay for a guard. So now, how about you go out and show us you are willing to overdraft for a guard? So that's the next step, John.
I'm fine with it, and he might play center, which is I'm also okay with that.
Yeah,
whatever. He's a good football player, and I want good. Like, that's it. He's good, and he's worth the pick. I don't want
those other centers end up being the ones that are on our team currently.
Yes,
if they also end up being able to play guard, like I think they could do that too. I just want the best guys that are out there as part of our offensive interior.
Look, Sundell's getting a lot of love, and Olu is serviceable, who could continue to grow.
Backup center always gets a lot of love. Always gets a lot of love.
But I think Sundell's skill set, and people talk about the RAS score and stuff like that, and Jalen Sundell's RAS it's pretty off the charts. So the potential, the raw marbles there, if you will, right, to chisel down. So Sundell kicking over. How about Gray Zabel at center? And that would then be Sundell, same school, right? They're both NDSU dudes.
Why do we have to elevate our backups to be starters? Can we just get guys that are good to be starters this coming year?
Fine.
Maybe Sundell will be that guy. If he can show me, then I'll start buying into it too. I haven't yet seen it, so I'm not going to start pounding the table for it. How about that, Clint?
Sundell, Christian Haynes, Gray Zabel, and then our two anchors with Lucas and Charles Cross.
Michael Knight had a question a while back I wanted to get to. Can we get into round 2 and 3 picks that you are fond of? I'll throw one out to you, Michael, because we were talking safety, and I think maybe I talked about him just a little bit with EJ Snyder. How about Billy Bowman of Oklahoma? We got rid of Trey Brown. We do need a Sooner on this team, especially if we're going to be drafting a wide receiver out of Texas. We have to balance this out. We have to keep the alignment of, you just can't have too many Texas players on this roster. You have to balance it out. You go get safety Billy Bowman, and then you at least have a guy who can be safety number 3 and maybe take over eventually.
I love it. I'm looking up the so my guy that I think would be in that area, and he's getting quite a bit of buzz, and I think I'm pronouncing it right, is Savanea, right? Jonah Savanea, the Arizona.
Right.
I think tackle, but he's really going to be a guard. And this is not just, and again, EJ brought him up and you guys discussed him as well, but I've been hearing quite a bit about him as in just different pods, whether they're Seahawks pods, NFL wide pods, the combine coverage. So that's the name there, Jonas Savaiinaea, that he looks every bit of a powerful, really athletic, again, played tackle at Arizona, very likely kicks into guard in the NFL. He looks really good, man. So at 18, we go get Gray Zabel. At 50, we go get Jonas Savaiinaea. And at 52, we go do something else. How about that?
And if one of those guys aren't available, then for Gutter Matt, someone out of Oregon, maybe Jamari Caldwell. We get him to play defensive interior. So there you go, Gutter Matt's a little bit of Oregon love that we can add to this roster too.
Go Ducks.
All right. Jeff Stevens asking the question, Brandon, which mock drafts are you trusting the most? 0. I trust no mock drafts, Jeff. Do not put any trust into a mock draft. They're not real. They're
what?
They're just, you can get a feel of where guys might go, but to fully trust them, that would be foolish. I'm sorry.
Well, one thing about that also is, I think it's as you get really close to the draft, 2 days out, it starts to fall in place where, all right, there's like a congealing of who kind of goes where. It still gets disrupted, but really, I think this year it's going to be for our Seahawks. The biggest thing again is going to be how many quarterbacks sneak in. Like, does Jackson Dart get hot? Does Tyler Shuck get hot? And does Sanders go in the top 17? That's the Bengals, and then we're up on the 18th. Could we see a bit of a late swell where, all right, they thought it was just going to be Ward and Sanders, but now a third quarterback goes, maybe a fourth quarterback goes. It happened last year. So that's just something to watch. And the more buzz around that, the better for us. Just every single time another quarterback goes, cool. One more shot at Tyler Warren, one more shot at even like Armand Membu, who's likely not going to be there from Missouri, but if he is, one more shot at a guy like that. That's something to watch because people get a fever. They get the fever pitch gets real about quarterbacks, and they see them throwing their underwear and they make the Zach Wilson throw. It only takes one or two more, and then a player of like Warren's caliber falls to us, and that's when we got to run the ticket up there, brother.
And Jeff saying, never forget that John Schneider is still at drafting. So yes, all those things could happen, and then we could still take a wide receiver at number 18, Clinton.
And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.